Recognize the gentleman from Kansas, Dr. Marshall, for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman, very much. Thank you, Chairman, for the opportunity to come and talk and share some of my 30 years of experience as an OBGYN in rural Kansas. As most of the members of the committee know, 92 people die in this country every day. 92 people die in this country every day from opioid addiction. What I wanted to do was describe a couple sentinel events. Why? Why did we end up in this situation? And as I look back in these last 10 years, the number of pills that I would send home for a post-op patient doubled. For the average C-section, the average hysterectomy, all of a sudden, each week, to get the people that post-op visit, the number of pills they would need literally doubled. So I went back to try to figure out why and how come. And the first thing I think of, Patient Bill of Rights came about in 1993 or so. And over the next 10 years, though it was a great document, patients suddenly began to expect that they should have no pain after surgery. They would come into the ER with a sprained ankle and expect to have no pain, and the demand for narcotics went up and up. Somewhere in the early 2000s, something was introduced called a pain scale, and they called it the fifth vital sign. It's probably the worst thing I've ever seen introduced in my medical career, where they suddenly described the amount of pain they had, which was very subjective. And beyond that, eventually became part of a measure of how good of medicine you were practicing, even tied to your reimbursement. So suddenly, patients in the post-op PACU area were getting double and triple the medications. And then on the post-operative floor, rather than getting Percocets every 6 hours, they were getting them every 4 hours. And the PCA pumps increased doses. So what I'm trying to say is we almost doubled the amount of narcotics people were getting in the hospital. And then they wanted twice the amount to go home with as well. So physicians were faced with this struggle of saying, well, I don't think you need this much, but patients becoming more and more in control of of their own health care. So I think those are a couple reasons why we ended up here, and I think there needs to be some re-education done. I'd like to point towards Valley Hope at Norton, Kansas. They've treated over 300,000 patients over the past 50 years. They've kept incredible statistics. They have incredible treatment plans. And what they taught me is about a month after release, a month after they started their path to recovery, that they had a second physiological reaction. And that's when these people OD and die. People need to recognize that for a month that they need to have very close treatment, and probably for 2 months and even a year. So it's during that second episode when before they had treatment, they were taking a certain amount of heroin and a handful of pills and a pint of whiskey. When they were treated from that for a month, and they went back to that same dose, they overdosed and stopped dying. We need to understand what kills people is that if I gave anybody enough morphine, you would stop breathing. So they're unable to metabolize it. We need to recognize that that's a very critical moment. Treatment plans cannot last a week. They're going to last months and years probably. We need to make sure we're adequately funding outpatient treatment and that we're making sure that there's good follow-up at home. And we need to reward facilities like Valley Hope who have great outcomes, great long-term outcomes. Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for taking on this task and look forward to working with you as always.
Chair, thanks. The gentleman yields back.